Alrighty, hello there guys and welcome back. This is the episode 3.5 where we'll be reading through all of the data entries that I've collected throughout the episodes 1, 2, and 3. We'll be reading through everything we come in here. Some of it we've already read, so we'll probably skip over some of it. We probably also will skim through some of these, like the hatch. I don't need to know the specifics about a hatch. I'm sure there's not a lot in there anyway. And if there is like a lot in there, it's probably just more of like flavor text than like how to use a hatch properly and how to be crazy cool with it or something like that. So about that, missing colonist, Wander. We found that. Okay, that's nothing much there. Survival guide, single the nearest bio bed, review, yada yada yada. Scan area, find a fresh water. Source of acid for batteries, fabricate a scanner, scan everything, fabricate habitats, be alert for updates from your NOAA. It's a pioneer, 40,000 sleeping colonists are counting on me to do what I do best. You got it. Okay. Pressure tolerance, digestion. Life in the unknown ocean shares its basic genetic code with Earth DNA letters code for amino acid words, which are joined into strings like sentences to create proteins. Pioneers can also look forward to familiar delights such as sugar, starch, fat, and alcohol. However, this world genetic code uses a different words for amino acids, creating waxy and metallic proteins. Human stomach enzymes cannot digest them. Undigested mass builds up in the intestines, causing indigestion, intestinal blockage, starvation, and gout. This field adaptation allows your digestive tract to secrete alien enzymes built within human chemistry. Borrowing these enzymes bypasses the need to design a synthetic equivalent, allowing you to proceed with the mission. The chances of your digestive tract digesting itself are minimal. Fantastic. Hatches, heavy duty stuff, corridor, support small workforce, biolab. Operating instructions of biolab used to inject and remove biomobs, temporary genetic tricks borrowed from native life. After the tragedies of on 4546B and Rakshasa and the outbreak of the Kra and the Irradian Arm, Altera recognized that the human body was now the most vulnerable component of deep space strategy. Nobel Prize winning research by Valentina and Palm produced the answer: a nanotech interface between human and alien biology. Unlike further adaptations, these biomods never entered the colonist genome. They are temporary and reversible. This helps would-be parents avoid awkward conversations about which biomods to inject for date night. The biolab is a colonist one-stop point of service for biomods. Deep readers will note that this is also a triumph of human ingenuity over the pessimism, I have no idea what that word is, I've never seen that, of early anti-expansion thinkers who believe that humanity's tight link to earthly biota would make interstellar colonization impossible. Base building, bioped, no raw materials, yada yada, sync with your thing, black box, implant transfers final memories but not all possessions, solar panel. Good solar panel. Fabricators do fabricator, lockers, store, processor is a reverse fabricator, reducing complex inputs like salvaging or biomass into simple raw materials. While standard fabricators can break down salvaging, the processors require to generate large outputs. Makes sense. Room, big place, battery terminal charges batteries, spotlight gives you light, scanner scans things. Hydroelectric turbine generates power through water currents. NOAA terminal. NOAA says hi. Moon pool. Keep calm poster. Calm rational behavior helps your AI advisors predict and pre-evaluate your future decisions. Do not take your circumstances personally. Remember that an effective system can subsum all critique into itself. Humor can provide distance from your difficulties while improving your performance. Power cell terminals, the bed, the bioreactor, Bloom biofilm. Biofilm is an external structure created by bacteria city to support their growth. The first bodies on Earth were probably biofilms. Biofilms allow bacteria to colonize hostile substrates like medical equipment or exposed rock face. A crystalline protein, pretty tough. Electrical electrons reactions in there, pretty cool. Multi-bacteria, multiple, I mean multi I guess works. Multiple bacteria species, viral superinfection. This film is infected with 2 strains of large RNA viruses. Interesting. Possible karyotypic activity. Some structure in the environment distantly remembers the Quran microphones encountered in the Iridian arm. Further analysis required. Interesting. Angel comb. This animal, Cidia gamicos, has no earthly analogy and no clear ecological niche. This ancestral form may be a centrophore, a comb jelly, of all animals on Earth. Comb jellies are the least related to humans. Active central bulb. The central bulb is similar to an enormous cell nucleus. It contains gene sequences from organisms in the surrounding environment. Viral loop. The combs release a large RNA virus into the seawater. This virus infects all other organisms in the ecosystem. Infected organisms produce new copies of the virus, which return. The angel comb carries stolen genes from infected hosts. The angel comb conducts genetic piracy on a massive scale. The angel comb draws food from the Titan rock borer below. The angel combs may be obligate parasites of Titan rock borers. Touch central bulb for genetic adaptation. Further investigation urgently required. Users may be curious about the symbiosis between earthly parasitic wasp and polynanoviruses. The wasp's own genome contains the viral genome, allowing the wasp to create the virus for use in its reproductive cycle. Interesting. The bloom cranker. This chimeric organism is a feeding and reproductive site for a large RNA virus. It is a colony of funnel-shaped cells similar to earthly conoflagellates. Natural origin. The canker cells are infected by the protovirus beta strain, which modifies their behavior and gene expression. The cells work together to form a slime mold. Structure slime. The slime mold uses glue borrowed from clam anchor proteins to grow a holdfast stalk and numerous sporangia too tough to cut with hand tools. Biocrystals. The clinker stores solid crystals of protovirus beta viron. When the canker feeds, it releases protovirus beta into the seawater, then soaks up killed microorganisms. These crystals are vulnerable to high-frequency sonic resonance. Network effect. The canker grows towards other infected organisms, transferring nutrients and electrical currents. If the viral bloom ecosystem is a body, these cankers are both the mouth and a gonad. Protective shell. Cankers grow a tough, crab-like shell using genes from other protovirus beta-infected organisms. Pores in the shell provide excellent sonic insulation, but the canker cannot feed with its shell closed. Assessing primary feeding site for ecological dubious. Viral bloom destroyed when open. Destruction may help nearby infected organisms clear the virus. Missing colonists. They need to colony pursuer need to drown near an angel comb. Unfortunate. Chap. He imprinted into a new body. Toxic humans. The planet's toxic. Quaker colonist enthusiast drowned when her bunk room flooded. That's unfortunate. Anita, gender W. I guess woman. Colony manifest. Chap, male. Abstract Altera, Woo, male. Grandfather of large extended family. Mogami, female. Mother of Lander and Ander. Thing 2. Thing 2 Turberish, gender unknown. Mission role, able spacer. You got it. Quaker, female. Member of Society of Friends. Great place to be. Mantis, male. A veteran of multiple space construction products in ongoing independent space. Tuba. Cook. Colony cook. Unknown. Anita's black box. These were given to us. Colonist log. Do not go out alone. Everyone listen. Yada yada yada. Welcome to Center Recording. Welcome back, Pioneer. Sophie. Call this planet. Yeah. Okay. Some of these we've already gotten read. They're not read to us, but Noah talked to us about them. Personal messages. Day 620, Sophia, training, Nita, 5 others left habitat and protest and decision and medical treatment for the sick. They call themselves the Jubilee. They are going to move back to Camp 1 for now. Nita claims her group can live in the open sea. She believes the planet is trying to give us what we need to survive through the angel cones. I insisted on giving them physicals. They are lucid and rational, no more fast, know not to reset them when they die, but I suspect it will anyway. Everyone will blame me, will Sophia. Cephalopod. Feeling that day 400. Bad news. I see signs of you. There are a lot of jellies here. They're feeding on decay. Yeah, so some of that we already had. Some of it was going to talk to us. Titanium, quartz, copper, sulfur, salt, silver. Ganzo, survivor, fled east. Habitat is gone. Blue, got out of the air. Some time taking this first to the tadpole. Them swim down the east tunnel past Sophia's office to the baby jellies. Okay, that's somewhere out there. Welcome Center, Colonist Bunker, remote habitat used as a meeting ground and miscellaneous workspace contains a biobed rigged to upgrade colonist bodies. License violations have disabled the pet's ability to reprint lost colonists. Biobed reported a time series analysis of changes in patients' genetics. Old habitats, rupture by an explosion. Seahawks open to flood habitat, perhaps emergency fire. Colonist Bunker contains a bio-rigged canteen, pumped out and useful as a work site in the past. The canteen is flooded again. Colonist Bunker unauthorized. No modification. Remote habitat buried in volcanic rock near a tremendous sinkhole or altitude. Contains a biobed rigged to upgrade colonist bodies. License violations have disabled the bed's ability to reprint lost colonists. Spider Dome, an unusual core. Camp 1, partially disassembled and flooded corridor network. Metal salvage. Theories. Surviving death. Protovirus. Gross genetic transfer. The protovirus can reprogram cells of one organism to behave as and become cells of another. This is biologically implausible. Nonetheless, it occurs. Horizontal gene exchange. Horizontal gene transfer is the exchange of DNA between organisms other than parent and child. It occurs frequently on Earth, largely but not exclusively between microbes. The human placenta depends on a capsule protein that was inserted into ancestral mammals by a retrovirus infecting a sperm or an egg cell. Interesting. Evolutionary catalyst. The protovirus may have evolved earlier than terrestrial viruses, granting it root-level access to biology on this world. If it consistently exchanges genes between species, it may increase the pace of evolution, allowing natural selection to more rapidly search the space of all possible life forms for the best adapted, but most changes are destructive, not helpful. Makes sense? Viruses as free riders. While viruses are common and evolutionarily important, they are parasites and ultimately consume the host resources for little return. A healthy ecosystem should. Databank generation, halt, user-facing error, script, messages, viral infections, and protective roles, assessment. Ambiguous. Protovirus may revive life on this world with an evolutionary advantage at the cost of pervasive viral infection. Protovirus technical details. Protovirus, large retrovirus discovered in the seawater of this world. Radically dissimilar to terrestrial life, complex genetic structure. Codons are 4 base pairs compared to terrestrial DNA RNA 3s. The core viral genome is 1.4 million base pairs stored in numerous strands, large for an RNA virus. Rapid changes in RNA conformation prevent further analysis. Accessory genomes contain sequences from infected organisms. Viral capsule is built from a polymer colony produced by life on this world. The human immune system cannot lyse this polymer, so protovirus will resist immune reaction, but because protovirus does not share genetic code with human life, there is no risk of cross-infection. Further analysis will require specialized virological equipment. What was that noise? Is that you, buddy?
Welcome aboard.
Adding some noise to my reading session. Right there, we don't really care for those. Scanner, portable locker, flashlight gives light, habitat builder does building, air bladder does that, beacon, sonic resonator, modified propulsion, repulsion cannon, chassis carrying a phased array sonar's electronical stuff. Oh, okay, so this is the propulsion cannon, basically. Ah, vehicles. Is that everything? I thought there'd be more. Oh, I didn't go into Indigenous life. I didn't read anything about the planet yet. Apple's operating single-pile submarine provides unlimited oxygen while powered, fabricated at a vehicle bay next to a moon pool, ensure that the moon pool is large and deep enough to accept the tadpole recharge power cell when depleted in the event of damage and apply standard repair tool. The tadpole takes damage when diving below its crushing depth. This depth can be upgraded through modifications fabricated at a modification station and installed via an external access slot. The tadpole has a single hardpoint for a deployable locker. Single hardpoint for deployable locker, work light, oxygen generator, or other utility item. Oh, you could like attach, you can attach like a lockers or lights to them. That's really cool. The tadpole can be docked to a range of add-on chassis constructed of the utility bay. The scout ray, hydrofluoro improves speed. The hull rig adds a second hardpoint and built-in storage for extra cargo. These chassis may be swapped out in the field by undocking and redocking. Background: the Tadpole's Sea Space Mobility Pod is a single-seat, 6 degrees of freedom personal transport powered by a single replaceable rechargeable power cell. Designed by AI to minimize its resource footprint, the Tadpole is a minimum-cost descendant of the popular and highly mature Seamoth, Spademoth, Sunmoth series. Sales brochures describes the Tadpole as an aspiration beginning. The Tadpole can be fabricated on demand at a vehicle bay, so it's often stored in components. The pod doubles as a command module for a series of dockable chassis ranging from high-speed hydrofoils to powerful work mechs with alterations to its propulsion and radiator. It can serve equally well in the ocean, atmosphere, or space. It is in its underwater configuration, the Tadpole chassis on a long-haul main propeller and steers with 4 shrouded thrusters. The passenger compartment is sealed with the same selective membrane used on the Super Brewery entry portal, providing both direct canopy access to the cockpit and long-requested catheterization hygiene functions. The Tadpole, it's amophobious. Okay, so that was all of that. We now need to go to industrial life and read about the planet. I'm going to close all of these tabs now. Just to cut. Alright, indigenous life form. We have mobile life, we have anomalies, coral, jellies, kelp, pylons, rayons, root sacks, sponges, starfish, and tunics. Okay. We'll read top to bottom. We'll do that. Or bottom to top. Oxygen tunic. These guys. Tunic alien, a bizarre animal that spits seawater into hydrogen on which it feeds and oxygen which it releases. Tunic. Like earthly tunics, this is a complex animal with a heart, nerve, cord, and flexible exterior shell. Radioactive metabolism. At the heart of the oxygen tunic is a nugget of radioactive metal, such as uranium, radium, or thorium. Radiation from this nugget splits water into hydrogen and oxygen through radiolysis. The oxygen tunic retains the hydrogen to feed an internal colony of sulfur-reducing bacteria and releasing the excess oxygen. Pretty cool. Blue glow. The Cherenkov radiation from the core excites radioluminescence pigments in the tunic, producing a distinct blue glow. This may be a warning to would-be predators that the oxygen tunic releases poisonous quantities of oxygen. So I shouldn't be sucking on the oxygen or something. Implications for life on this world. The oxygen tunic's metabolism suggests that this world has an energetic geology and a biosphere adapted to use radiation as a food source. It has an interesting implications for life without sunlight on Earth. Even deep-sea vents depend on oxygen produced by photosynthesis. No such dependency exists here. Assessment. Energy. Emergency oxygen source for divers. Beware that repeated use can lead to radon buildup with serious health risks, including cancer. Fantastic. Cabbage shortroot. Shortroot cabbage is a robust bottom-dwelling organism, anatomically similar to a plastic starfish or an open variety of Earth's extinct blastoids. Animal anatomy. God, why is that word so hard for me all of a sudden? The cabbage shortroot's upwards facing mouth is surrounded by outstretched arms. These arms are hard, tightly grouped, partly calcified, and covered in tough biopolymer characteristics of other shortroots. I'm dying. Can I like turn this on to like not survival so I can read? So we're in the base, so we'll just keep reading. If we die, we die. Seabed burrowing. A second set of arms uses ribbons of the same tough biopolymer to dig into the seabed, stirring up sediment and expanding cracks in rock. This is difficult and metabolically expensive process, but it is a niche with a little competition. Symbiotic kiss. The cabbage shortroot does not use its mouth to eat or its hard leaf-like arms to feed. These services seem to be reserved for a symbiotic partner. The cabbage shortroot uses its mouth to transfer nutrients gathered by its roots to the symbiote and to receive a trickle of food of chemistry in exchange. Circular nerve core. Like all shortroots, the cabbage shortroot is notable for its expressive of the circular nerve core. Assessments. Do not sit on it. You may receive nutrients. Cradle shortroot. A basket-shaped organism with no clear earthly analogy, atomically similar to a plastic starfish or to an open variety of Earth's extinct blastoids. Okay, so this is like a weirder version of it. The flattened fibrous leaves are the arms of the animal loaded with photosynthesis symbiotes. The central structure houses a digestive system and a hard, sticky cradle. A second ring of arms grow into the seabed, seeking crevices in the rock. Preferred symbiotes. The cradle is an exchange site with a symbiotic partner. Spectrogenetic analysis suggests the cradle shortroot is younger than the rot sac. It may have originally parasited free-floating Lucifer rot sacs before evolving a niche as an anchor, providing a refuge in minerals in the root sac in exchange for a share of the root sac's fermented food. Although it lacks the true cell walls of Earth's planet, the cradle shortroot strengthens its tissue with bioplastic fibers too tough to cut by hand. They could be severed by a cutting tool. Tough fibers used to make synthetic fabric or food. The Amphora sponge. We want to try to actually pronounce it. Symphum amphora sponge adapted to colonize and create air pockets. Amphora-shaped structures. Like all sponges, the amphora requires constant flow through its pores to survive, but it pumps air rather than water. Contraction and expanse force moist through the sponge pores. Absorbent surfaces harvest water and carbon dioxide from the air. Waxing coating helps prevent water loss. Radiolactic metabolism. The soft blue glow of the sponge is bioluminescence fueled by the radioactive minerals in the sponge's veins. The structure is growing from the anchoring rhizoid. Pretty cool. This radiation splits water into hydrogen and oxygen. The gases gather in the cave ceilings. The amphora prefers to colonize, creating pockets of null gas, unmixed hydrogen oxide. Though breathable, this air is highly flammable and explosive risk. The sponge's symbiotic bacteria feed on the hydrogen and oxygen, producing energy and water. The sponge uses this energy to fix carbon from the air and grow as an earth plant would. Assessment: a remarkable step. The amphora sponge may evolve an entire lineage of dryland sponges, colonizing niche-filled plants.
Lost to dehydration. Reprinting.
I don't know how that works with that map. Now, for a sponge may evolve an entire lineage of dryland sponges colonizing niche filled by plants and fungi on Earth. Indicates the presence of an air pocket. Swim up to breathe. Do not ignite flares or discharge electrical devices in the pocket. I wonder if they actually can explode if you like bring a flare up there. That'd be cool. Pebbled sporol. Sporol bisphosis, a moiety of a sponge and a coral, possibly a single chimeric organism. Reef building. Reef building on this world seems to be carried out by a range of sponge coral pairings and hard corals. The sponge has lost its ability to feed independently and provides a hard shell for the corals. In this organism, the relationship is reversed. The coral polypus grow a hard surface shell while the sponges continue to pump water. Because the hard shell blocks the sponge's pores, they work in pairs, with one inhaling through its osculum and one exhaling. Dome coral association, frequently found on the surface of larger dome coral, blocking patches of its surface from receiving sunlight. This may be an opportunistic parasitic relationship. Confusing genetics. Both coral polyps and sponge cells seem to be carrying the full genome of both organisms, blurring the definition of the species. It is unknown how a single organism can contain genomes for two biological distinct species. The two cannot reproduce sexually to combine their genes. Assessment: interesting data point. Very true. The macaron sponge. A sponge that has developed a disc of flagellated feeding cells named for the desert sandwich cookie. Not available in current fabricator settings. Damn it. Can't make my desert sandwich cookie. Hardened plates. Instead of a sponge's normal inner and outer layers, the macaron develops two hard plates of pinna codorum. These anchors the feeding disc to a hold fast. The sponge's mesophila has specialized into feeding discs with tentacled cells that pull particles from the surrounding seawater. This leaves the delicate jelly vulnerable to predators and parasites. No, not bad. Hostage exchange. The feeding disc hosts the larvae of the sponge-eating organisms in its spores. By providing a shelter and habitat for their young, the macaron may buy itself a degree of safety and defense. Unusual protein. Many of the cells in the feeding disc express proteins also found in the hosted larvae. This may be a recognition signal to attract the desired species. Inedible despite name. Waiting for their instructions. Looks pretty cool. Toxic sponge. Hateful and malice sponge. Assessing PDA neural temperature, reducing output subjectivity. Sponge of dying mist, a dangerous semi-predatory or sponge that acts as a central node in a necrobiome. Sponges cultivate bacteria which secrete helpful chemicals. At some point in its history, the toxic sponge was infected by a bacteria symbiote which generated a powerful antibiotic. Bacterium used this antibiotic to extinguish competition, then began an internal power struggle to evolve compounds that could destroy rival strains of its own species. This result is a sponge flush with an antibiotic so concentrated it causes skin burns and nerve damage. Touch-based hunting strategy. While brushed, the sponge contracts, sharply expelling a cloud of antibiotic toxin. When microorganisms are killed and large species may enter convulsive and die nearby. The dead matter decomposes, releasing nutrients upon which the sponge feeds. Animal gene fragments. The toxic sponge genetic code contains fragments of an animal genome, likely a crustacean. Avoid, keep medical supplies on hand to treat chemical burns and nerve damage. These things just spit out no matter what. You don't even have to touch those things. Tremea rotsack. Tremoya, probably. Close enough. Most likely. A tunicate-like animal which collects alcohol from decaying matter to produce a creamy, flavorful mucus. Tell me that, like, that's like a thick alcohol. You're just like drinking it's like you have like spoiled milk alcohol right there. Like, Cherimoya, named for its resemblance to the terrestrial cherimoya fruit or custard apple. It can be eaten whole or sucked on through a straw. The exterior tunic is soft, but the heart, nervous system, and other organs should be spat out. The rot sac contains mercury sulfide, which will eventually accumulate to dangerous levels in the human body. Peculiar metabolism. As a rough inverse of the Lucifer rot sac, the Cherimoya rot sac converts alcohol to sugars rather than decomposing sugars to alcohols. The Cherimoya achieves this with a chemical pathway that does not occur on Earth. Aqueous cinnabar provides a source of mercury to oxidize alcohols into simple sugars. The Cherimoya has no other behaviors. It simply stores sugars as it grows into a full adult. So tell me we could find like one of these things that'd be like massive because it's been like doing this for years and nothing's like messed with it. Symbiotic partner. Because of this plentiful stored sugar, the Cherimoya is a common symbiotic partner for organisms like a cage gorgon. The Cherimoya rotsac is a gonochoric, either male or female. However, it does not release eggs or sperm into the seawater. Instead, its reproductive cells are eaten by organisms feeding on the Cherimoya. They seek out other Cherimoya rotsacs, gametes, in the digestive tract of the host. Fertilized embryos are then expelled by the host organism, providing them with nutrients waste to bootstrap. Bootstrap may briefly become pregnant. That is the most wild way to do that. Okay then. The Lucifer rotsac. Technically a rotsac Lucifer, the light-bringing rotsac, is a like animal which ferments decomposing biomatter inside its body. Hidden body. The rotsac larval swimming body transfers into a spherical adult form. Because fermentation does not require oxygen, the rotsac actually stops breathing as it matures. Swollen with hydrocarbons, the rotsac contains isoprene useful for fabricating rubber and lubricants. High dialactate levels give the rotsac a strong caramel funk. That word. I don't know what it is. Bioluminescence. Glow may attract animals to defecate or die on the rotsac. Bioluminescence seems to play an important role in this world's economy. Regular experiments with light reactions are advised. Symbiote. Often found glued to a cradle shoot root, an unrelated species of starfish like bottom dwellers that provides the rotsac with an anchor while it grows. Assessment: useful source of organic polymers for rubber and oil. Consult your NOAA to research optimal search areas. Did he even tell me where to go? Acid rayon. A colony of worms living inside a shared membrane, probably a sponge, uses weak acid to digest its prey. Rayon, an organism defined as a sponge occupied by a colony of cloned predatory worms. The sponge is chambered akin to Earth's extinct spinsotozoas. The chamber grows around a central pump. Pressurized acid. The rayon's worms secrete weak acids as a digestive factor and defense mechanism. The acid is held under pressure by a plug in the rayon central pump. To avoid unwanted acid release, cut away the chamber before disturbing the central pump.
Seek fresh water intake.
The acid rayon may have originally evolved near a cold sea or a volcanic caldera. Acid-friendly biochemistry gave it a useful defensive mechanism and feeding strategy could colonize other waters. The medical gel. The rayon central pump is partially plugged by a massive worm residue. This keeps the pressure in the chambers high. This residue contains useful clotting factors and broad-spectrum antibiotics. Recommended collection. Problematic genetics. The spectrogenetic analysis indicates the host sponge and the residence worms contain partial copies of each other's genomes. This is a biological possibility on Earth and suggests that genetic inheritance functions differently on this world. Useful source of weak acid for batteries. Central plug contains medical relevant gel. Cutaway chambers before removing the central plug. Consult NOAA for optimal search areas. Whip Gorgon. Gorgon Mastrix. The Whip Gorgon, a soft coral similar to the earthly Gorgonians, it lacks the hard limestone shell of a true leaf-building coral. Earth namesake, named for the extinct Leptorgoriga virlatula, something like that. Earth sea lip. Like the sea lip, it is a predator, and it must defend its soft body from parasites and predation. Spine defenses. Unlike the terrestrial sea lip, which developed a chemical arsenal to repel unwanted contact, the Whip Gorgon colony has developed specialized soldier polyplyps, which migrate to the surface and develop a brittle spine. When disturbed, the spine snaps off and releasing the soldier's payload of toxin. It is impossible to reject the effects of the sting on a colonist, but mechanical similarities to the infamous Australian Gympie, the Gympie plant, suggest native outcomes ranging from chronic agony to total sleep deprivation lasting weeks to years. Carnivorous diet. Civilian polyplyps in the Whip Gorgon use their stings to kill and digest microscopic prey. They lack the brittle spine and powerful toxins of the soldier polyplyp. Avoid contact. Consider pruning back with hand tools. Good idea. Good idea. That's pretty cool. The Mimic Pylon. Tentatively, Polyraptor mimic a predatory animal disguised as a leafy kelp discharges electrical shock when disturbed. Cephalopod-like body resembles an octopus or squid planted mantle down in the seabed with its arms spread to mimic kelp. Pouches of symbiotic bacteria between the arms allow it to photosynthesize. A break at the center of its arms is plugged with mucus. Electrical hunting. The four arms contain electrolytes, organs which build up an electrical charge when disturbed by prey. The electrolysis discharge causing paralysis or death. It is unclear if the prey are directly eaten or if they decompose on the garden around the mimic pollen. Organisms which feed on external decay are known as cerotrophs. Implies kelp. The pylon cryptid. Aggressive mimicry of leaf kelp implies that kelp must exist on this world. Most species in earth, oceans eat to survive, which primary production, the conversion of sunlight into biomass, carried out by plankton and algae. Leafy kelp were a late evolutionary development. Cave mouth strategies. Mimic pylons tend to cluster around the sea mouth cave, perhaps to feed on organisms entering or leaving the caves. Alternatively, and speculate they may have been planted there by another species to control access. Avoid contact to prevent injury made by carved mouse. Pretty cool. Feather kelp. No info for the early access. Split orb. Jelly Lee. The young stack of firearms reproductive stage of a flower-like jelly. The polyplyp. Despite its resemblance to a kelp, the jelly lie prefers to hang underneath surfaces where it cannot photosynthesize. It is the rooted polyplyp phase of a jellyfish's life cycle. The chain of flowers growing beneath the polyplyp. I don't even know how to say it. I'm just saying polyplyp. Definitely not right because it's polyp. Are larval jellyfish called Euphora. The stalk itself is called a cystophitome. I'm not even going to try repronouncing that one. Euphoria traits. The budding larvae have broad, flat petals which will eventually merge into the adult jelly's belly. These petals already host photosynthetic symbiotes. It is possible the adult jelly will seek light sources to grow, akin to the terrestrial upside-down jelly. Note the purple color produced by photosynthetic retinol, the same molecule your eyes use to detect light. Pretty cool. Heat stress. The jelly-wise growth cycle has been accelerated by heat stress. The stalked parent may release its larvae early, allowing them to swim clear of hot, oxygen-depleted water. Ecological crisis is your assessment of it. A cage gorgon. Predatory soft coral named for its resemblance to orthogorgonians. Spongy coral myote. Like hard corals on this world, gorgons are sponges inhabited by Cindarian polyps, tiny jellyfish-like organisms which live within the sponge and direct its growth. Unlike hard corals, they do not produce a limestone structure or host photosynthetic microbes. They are pure predators. Caged friend. The caged gorgon specializes in capturing and protecting a symbiotic partner, which attracts prey for the gorgon to sting and eat. The caged gorgon larva probably adheres to a partner such as the Chromeria rootsac, and then grows around it, eventually fastening the partner to the sea floor. Duplex larva. The free-swimming reproductive stage of a caged gorgon carries cells of the host sponge like seeds. These seeds are genetically distinct from other sponges in the ecosystem, suggesting the caged gorgon is monogamous with only a single host sponge. Assessment. Cupping open a caged gorgon allows access to the symbiotic partner and carries no risk of inflicting pain or suffering. The cage may attract a new partner before healing or surviving while empty. Radiator coral, hard coral that frequently grows on hydrothermal vents. It uses temperature to gradient between its anchor bases and cold water lip to drive metabolic reactions. Await further updates. Curtain gorgon. A sponge coral myote, like Earth's brown tube sponges, soft corals on this world are a colony of coral polyps growing with a matrix of sponge tissue, and the specimen is difficult to distinguish the sponge jelly-like inner tissues from the soft coniacium, which connects to the coral polyps. Ribbons the tissue. The curtain gorgon forms a long, low-lying fan of tissue which catches prey. The curtain gorgon is an obligatory predator and cannot survive on sunlight, but some specimens are colonized by chemical trophic bacteria.
Dehydration. Reprinting.
The curtain gorgon obligates pressure predator and cannot survive on sunlight, but some specimens are colonized by chemotrophic bacteria which may provide the gorgon with extra energy. Plasticized skeleton. The gorgon skeleton is chemically similar to PVC, polyvinylene chloride. Interesting. So it's a water bottle. Indicates the presence of plankton and other small sea life. Dragon scale coral. Coral dragon scale, a hard coral that grows on hydrothermal vents using the temperature gradient between its hot base and its cold water lip to drive metabolic reactions. Hard coral. The dragon scale polyps must grow their hard coral shell in the water rich with dissolved minerals. A good resource if it doesn't dissolve you, too. Limestone cannot survive in this vent water. Instead, the dragon scale's polyps extend long fibers which collect metal ions. These water whiskers are both an anchor for further mineral growth and the key to the coral's metabolism. Whisker-based metabolism. The difference in temperature between the cold and hot end of the dragon scale indicates the electrical current along its whiskers, which dragon scale polyps use to drive its metabolism. Trilite superconductor. Deposits of trilite and iron sulfur mineral with the dragon scale enter an unusual quantum spin state which, when heated above 150 degrees Celsius, possible applications to research in computation. Cool. So that's probably need to go find that again because that sounds pretty useful. Coral dome. The coral the defining feature of its shallow biome. Coral and algae. Like earthly coral, the dome is a colony of polyps, small jellyfish-like animals that secrete a limestone skeleton. This process uses dissolved carbon dioxide from the seawater. Corals are therefore an important method of climate regulation since they transform atmospheric carbon into hard limestone. Dual feeding strategy. The dome's outer surface feeds on sunlight using photosynthetic symbiotes known as zooxanthellae. As the dome grows, the colony clears its interior, recycling the limestone for reuse. Polyplyps on the inside of the dome hunt with stinging tentacles, mining explosion. As the dome grows, it collects and expels mineral waste, creating nodes of quartz. Critical ecosystem element. The dome coral help regulate global climate and provide a breakwater, reducing erosion in their shallow surroundings. The dome captures nutrient sediments from sea currents. Pioneers should prioritize a survey of coral health. Critical source of quartz, vital to local ecosystem. Branching coral. Database auto-generated interrupted script hook found in allocated memory executing. Unpacking archived data. Nah, voice log. Go. If you are listening to this and you don't have lead poisoning, I'm very jealous if you're listening to this and you don't have lead poisoning. I'm sorry, I couldn't figure it out in time. Mea culpa. This is a typical protean coral. It works differently than earth coral. The gross morphology is a branching tree like some species of Earth's extinct Acrophora. We call it coral because we know the word, but the differences matter. On Earth's coral are basically tiny jellyfish living in stone houses. The jellyfish sting prey. They also let zooxanthellae live with them and house guests to make food from the sun. On Proteus, I think what we're seeing here is an actual sponge acting as the landlord. The sponge makes a house. It rents space to these tiny coral polyps, which sting prey capture sunlight as energy for the sponge. I think the sponge used to be in charge, but eventually the coral polyps got so good at their job that the sponge stopped pumping water and just lived rent-free from the coral polyps. And to keep its tenants alive, it evolved a rocky shell like Earth's Siluro sponges. If I'm right, we should see other coral sponge pairs that have worked out different deals. Each deal is suitable to a particular ecological niche. Pent. Database generation halts. User-facing error. The scanned entity Pent is not alive. It contains no cells, no genetic material, and no water chemistry. Resuming generation. Gross traits. The Pent is a soft, waxy body that contains a bath of sulfuric acid. Heat is provided by a lining of radioactive elements. Internal chemistry show no sign of protein sequences, though there are some complexity fatty acids partitioned into components by fat bubbles. Internal chemicals reactions are sluggish. If it were alive, it would be dying. Geological formation. Some geological formations, such as rock varnish, may be mistaken for the life. The Pent could be a similar phenomenon, a self-organizing but non-living structure. Shadow biosphere. Alternatively, though more remotely, the Pent may be a product of a shadow biosphere, a parallel form of life on this world which operates on a distinct chemical basis. The Pent more closely resembles life forms discovered in the atmosphere of Venus than any other terrestrial organisms. Await further updates. Titan rock borer. Titan rock borer, the enormous colony organism, resembles a spinal cord protected by a thick crab-like shell. It extends beyond the scanner range in both directions, growing through fractures in the seabed rock. Hollow interior. The interior of the borer contains at least two large flooded channels, one strikingly radioactive. The ancestral form may be a pyrosome, a sea squirt. What's that? Poor health. Most of the zooids in the borer are dead, leaving only a mineral skeleton and a hydrocarbon polymer shell. The interior channels have clogged. Unknown metabolism. The borer has no apparent food supply. It may have derived chemical energy from minerals, but if so, its bacterial symbiotes have fled. It is starving. Viral activity. The surviving tissues is infected with a large RNA virus similar to the earthly giant C viruses. The borer anatomies include receptor sites that encourage viral infection and reproductive. Further analysis required. Assessment. Entirely unknown organism. Investigate further. Determine origin and ecological niche. Alright, mobile life. Georgie's weird guys. A jet-propelled omnivore evolved from an organism resembling a bony octopus, rasping jaw. The Georgie's hard mouthparts can brush algae off rocks, crush small crustaceans, pull plugs out of coral, and cut wads of kelp. For fins, perhaps evolved from bony legs, the steer the Gorgians host its four stomach pouches. That's wild. Diverting stomachs. Each fin holds a digestive pouch with bacteria specialized to portions off of a diverse diet. Swimming motion helps stir and digest food. That's really cool. The central jet. The central chamber is lined with stinging cells which kill small seaborne fauna. Do not insert fingers. Muscular pulses propel the Georgie by jet action. Donut-shaped spinal braid. The Georgie's nerve braid is wrapped around the jet channel like a donut. Tordial brain structures may have interesting downstream consequences in larger organisms. Assessment edible. Through heavily loaded with metals, waxes, advised through fabricator cook. A water slug. A biological enigma that converts seawater into drinkable fresh water. Takes the salt out, I guess. Mycofusel. Removing salt from seawater is energy intensive. Nonetheless, the water slug does it, perhaps as a byproduct of an internal microbial reactor that feeds on waste in seawater. A hydrophobic plastic bulb that protects the slug from rapid dehydration by salt water. Plankton farm. The slug's water bulb hosts a highly productive plankton species, turning light into food. Fresh water may be necessary for the plankton's chemistry, or it may be a prison, a way to keep the plankton from leaving vampiric aura. The water slug's developed break has a sharp cutting surface. Possible evolutionary history as a parasite or commensal, tapping a host blood and filtering out toxins. Only nearby source of drinkable water. Advise fabricate cook before drinking. In case of kidney problems, consider allowing the water slug to feed on your blood. You got it. Kidney problems? Get the water slug. I want my intestinal tract to feel pregnant? Go eat some alcohol plants. The Marrow Breach. Dangerously Cetacean Predator. Shark-like. Bone-cutting jaws. Adapted to shear through tough elasticized flesh, edged in iron and salt surface, and bites deliver thousands of newtons of force in 60 milliseconds. Beware of pre-attack behavior such as circling or test bumping. Small eyes, optic nerves connected directly to the jaws muscles, probably for bite timing, may be distracted by bright lights. Ooh, okay, so you can like shine a flashlight on these guys and you can get them. Okay. Sophisticated non-visual senses, body lined with neuromast and gel-filmed amputee to detect motion, electrical fields, sensitive hearing, aware of play before they are aware of it. Makes sense. Streamlined body, large powder, filmed and muscular, pundical. Allow for sudden lunges. Scaly-rich river provides buoyancy control. There is no thruster. The Marrow Breach swims like a conventional fish. Apex Predator, avoid or distract. Investigate long-term possibility of mutual association through cleaning, feeding, but remember that this is a wild animal. The Nibbler Mango. A pesky omnivore adapted to scrap feed, it will happily snap at fish, sponges, kelps, and human limbs. Sounds about right. Tooth-rich jaws. Enormous jaw crest. Crush rocks and dead coral before swallowing, made of calcium acetate, the surface in tough vinyl and loaded with batteries of spare teeth. New teeth pushed up through the core of old teeth, splitting them open, likely painful. Oh, you just like, you get to the point where like, oh, you need a new tooth, your mouth just goes, gah, and you just have a new tooth. That probably hurts. That probably hurts a lot. Appreciable threat. Not a dedicated carnivore, but territorial and always hungry. Must maintain powerful jaw muscles and a massive digestive tract on a diet of slim algae and trash. Always looking for more to eat. Problematic digestion. Grinds his food in an internal gizzard, creating a concrete-like paste. Frequently constipated as a result. Not an apex predator. May fear larger predators startled by bright light or loud sounds. Key ecological role, probably a critical recycler and reef ecosystem, breaking down hard debris into free nutrients droppings, maybe metal rich. Social organism, nibblers live in family groups, small cohorts to defend against large predators. Dangerous in large groups, distract with flares, avoid pending any development, reuse behavior of droppings. So I guess at some point in time, they might poop out something useful that you want. Or they poop out titanium, maybe? Hycean, a remarkable flying predator named for planets that mix a hydrogen sky and a water ocean. Gasbag flyer, through descendants the same for the squid-like ancestors as the Houngar and other protean tutulus. The Hycean's mantle is full of buoyant hydrogen. The ancestral Hycean probably stored ammonia for buoyancy like many Earth squid. The Hycean uses bacteria symbiotes to convert this ammonia into carbon nitride, which, when exposed to sunlight, splits seawater into oxygen and hydrogen-lifting gases. Most free of most predators, the Hycean drifts above the sea surface and snags prey with its arms. The larger Hycean's gas bags, the more it can afford to lift and digest. The larger prey can be suffocated by holding them clear of the water until their gills dry out. That is brutal. The sails provide steerage in the wind. It can be flapped for emergency power. Any spark may ignite a Hycean's gas bag with disastrous results. Hyceans are acutely sensitive to electromagnetic activity and may be forced to shelter in the water during thunderstorms. Pretty interesting. Philosophical musings. The Buena Vista Hypaeus argues that advanced cognitive could only evolve when Earth fish began to raise their eyes above the water, allowing them to see far enough to require long-range behavioral planning. If this hypothesis is credited, then the Hycean, as one of the only discovered protein species that lives outside the water, may be unusually intelligent. Recommended to avoid areas beneath the Hyceans. Monitor for signs of high-level behavior, such as fertilizing certain areas of the ocean with defecated waste. The BFJ, the behemoth finger-legged jelly, a massive specimen with no earthly analogy. Jelly-like body plan. Even the largest terrestrial jellies are anatomically simple, with a gelatinous ball, a central stomach, and tentacles. By contrast, the BFJ, an acronym for behemoth finger-legged jelly, has complex organs and a sophisticated nervous system. Most of the BFJ's volume is occupied by gas bladders controlled by a net of distributed nerves that automatically regulate buoyancy. Sedentary BFJs resting on the seafloor flood their gas bladders with seawater. Multiple eye spots. The BFJ's eyes are differentiated into small, sharp-focused eyes, the large, wide field arrays that focus exclusively upward. Fine muscles in the raphilia can adjust their eyes to focus through different classes of seawater and even air, suggesting the BFJ spends time at the surface of the sea. Muscular arms. Unlike the trailing of tentacles of most jellies, the BFJs are muscular hydrostats, like squid arms, covered in finely developed sensory hairs that do not seem to be used for predation. Instead, they seek out chemical resources in the seafloor. Methane-sensing organs are particularly dense at the tips of the arms. Exhaustion. The index BFJs are scanned by the user, seems to be feeding on sunlight while waiting an unknown future state in its life cycle assessment, possibly the seabound state of an airborne organism. The Surge Jelly. Surge Jelly, large complex jelly that hunts with electrical shocks. Single animal. Unlike colonial organisms such as the Portuguese man-o'-war, the Surge Jelly is a single animal with specialized tissue far more specialized and complex than Earth jellies. Proposed class name, Stariobrachia, polearms. Complex internal structure. Adult ranges with sense organs called referia. A nerve net coordinates the bell's motions to swim and seek prey. The visible inner structures is in the gut. Feeding structure. The jellies retain its stalk, a remnant of its growth in the stack of clones. The stalk draws in nutrients for the gut. Charged fins. Two rigid fins contain wire-like electrolytes, like a development of ancestral tentacles. These organs build voltage to stun or kill prey. Measured power ranges from 400 to 1000 volts at 1 ampere, enough to kill a human. Wait for us to die real quick.
French lost to dehydration. Reprinting.
Peculiar passengers. Traces of the radioactive high temperature waxes and sulfuric acid imply contact with the hydrothermal vent compositions of the jelly's tissue, suggest origins in the deep ocean. Former domestics. Jellies in the close proximity communicate through their electrical fields. Whether jellies have individual names or a grammatical language is purely speculative, but some patterns may be trained or learned, even passed down through generations of jellies. So, minor danger and close comment, fascinating research prospect from a distance. Jellies. A simple animal closely related to corals, characterized by a simple body and trailing arms, usually grows in a stalked form called the polyp. Before detaching into a free-swimming form called the medusa, some jellies remain stalked their whole lives. Mixotrophs, most are predatory, but some obtain nutrients from photosynthesis or symbiotic photosynthesizers. Nerve nets. Jellies predate the evolution of a nerve cord in the tunics. Complex. Some jellies on the world have achieved a size complexity unknown on Earth. Evolutionary origins unknown. Earth analogies, jellies. Fish. The blue moon, unknown. Four-eye. Yeah, the weird splitting fish. Predatory fish always born in pairs of identical twins. The twins pair belly to belly, joining their digestive and nervous systems to behave as a single organism. The individual two eyes, convergent with earth fish, large and mobile pectoral fins are suitable to quick maneuvers, not crushing. Squashed eyes offer better vision upward. Individuals feed on smaller forage fish and hard-shelled crustaceans. Duplex team. Two individuals pair into a complex four-eye. Through a pair of modified ventral fins, which have evolved into sensitive structures similar to shoal shark suckers. Repeating this phase can help train the vocal dexterity. The embryonic yolk stalks grows through the forward sucker, allowing the joined pair to share nutrients. The nerve clusters in the suckers trigger each other through the skin, passing sensory data and motor commands. Separated individuals are prone to brief seizures, suggesting their system is sensitive to external influence. Dynamic pairing. The four eyes can unpair and repair at any time. When sexually mature, twins paired such infancy split up who seek out mating partners, forming new four eyes. Mated pairs will maybe cross-sex, with the male fertilizing the female, or the same sex, with both individuals cooperating to locate a mate or mates. Aggression. The duplex four eye is aggressive and willing to attack even larger species. It is unclear if this is a territorial guarding strategy or a relic of some ancient group behavior, or even a form of youthful play. Solitary. Two eyes may be ill or in mourning. Avoid. Assessment. Minor danger. Be alert for unpredictable attacks. Hammerhead. An armored, herd-dwelling territorial herbivore with a powerful ram. Hammerhead challenges intruders on his territory, especially other hammerheads, displays his pectoral fins, and closes its enamel head shield before attacking. Jet propulsion. Spinner goes behind the eyes, feed into the jet channel. With internal gills, the jet drives the hammerhead's sudden rams. Large brain floats in the protective cyst. The central eye sees color, while two smaller, motion-sensitive eyes guide ramming. The grazing jaw. The muscular vertical jaw suggests a diet of sponges, kelps, tunics, and possibly crushed coral. They need to protect a grazing area, and they have evolved the hammerheads territorially. Practice behavior. Hammerheads ram coral domes. The adductive benefit is unclear, perhaps toughening their shields. Advise caution, especially when piloting vehicles. May have social cognitive compared to Earth's ungulates, some of which were extremely dangerous to humans. Ramming areas called lurks are a major source of ocean noise. Harvest moon has nothing. Half moon. Half moon. Large forage fish which drains plankton from seawater and nibbles at small growth prey fish. Stable foodstuff for predators have evolved several flea and hide behaviors. Edible, but a fabricated cook is recommended. Separated plumbing. A ridged beak protects two valves which draws in seawater for feeding. Sprinklers behind the eyes feed water to internal gills for breathing. Pretty cool. Body packed with neuromass to detect water flows. Anterior fins have fenestrae to help them quickly reverse direction. May have evolved to maneuver in tight corridors or in dense schools of other half moons. Particular nervous system lacks reference cancellation, can't distinguish stimuli caused by its own motions from change in the surrounding world. Easily fascinated by bright light, may be even experiencing itself as causing the light. Sometimes behaves as if disorientated, swimming sideways without apparent benefits. Tolerable food source. The coral crab. Hides among the coral domes. Crab-like body, plant forelimbs, rake and dig for food, which is collected by long, soft maxillipedies around the mouth. The crab must molt to grow. Coral dome. A living coral dome, cut from its holdfast and worn, provides camouflage and protection, perhaps a nursery for the crab's young. Are they married to a single dome, or a domes traded as they grow? Implicit predator. Defenses and behaviors imply the existence of a predator powerful and dexterous enough to struck the crab for its dome and crack its heavily armored. Viral activity. Genome contains a large repeated retro or insects, including nerve, growth factors, and shell pigments. Molecular clock suggests they were recent introduction. Cells in the crab's back contain large segments of large brains. The coral crab has no spinal nerve braided. A large brain above the eyes manages senses and behavior planning, while a secondary nerve cluster controls the legs and digestive system. Seafloor communication. The coral crabs drum on the seafloor to signal each other. Claw clacking is likely a sign of intense excitement or agitation. Some earth crabs seek desirable partners to pair with and with prior to molting. Behavior known as hand-holding. Finding a similar behavior on this world may be emotionally rewarding. Signs of ecological stress. Minerals deficiencies and fungal infections imply environmental stress. Subnautica likely fears you more than you fear it. Be cautious and respectful, at least as intelligent as a gorilla, possibly a useful source of seabed resources. Determine whether the crab carries its dome to sunny or nutrient-rich areas for feeding. Sand spear, no information. That was all of that. We did it. Took only a good hour to read through all that. But we got our reading done. My throat now hurts. Alright, yeah, that was all the reading. This is episode 3.5 for the little Subnautica War part. But I will catch you guys all in that next episode then when we come back to actually playing Subnautica 2. See you, everybody.